I'm Angela Thomas, partner consumer and retail at Deininger Consulting in India. Headquartered in Germany, Deininger Consulting is one of the world's leading executive search and leadership consulting firms. I'm excited to have Shefta Nanda with me today. Shefta is a HR leader who brings over 17 years of diverse industry experience. Currently, she is the HR director for Adidas in India. Most recently, she spent about 2.5 years with Uber as the HR business partner. Earlier, she worked at American Express and Mercer Consulting in various HR roles. Welcome, Shefta, to Deininger Leadership Talk series.
Thank you so much, Angela. It's a pleasure to be here.
Lovely. As you know, today's theme is emotional intelligence. And I would like to start by something I read recently, and that sort of stuck with me. This is something that Theodore Roosevelt said. No one cares about how much you know until they know how much you care. And I thought something very relevant for the context of this theme. With that said, I would like to start with my first question. Shefta, what does emotional intelligence mean to you in the context of leadership?
Oh, thank you, Angela. And I think this is one of those timely topics. I mean, there's always been a buzz around it, but it's almost now the topic to discuss because I think every couple of years we talk about redefining leadership. And given how the last 2 years have been for leaders, and when I say leaders, I mean, anyone who's managing teams, not just CXO level leaders, there's been a rapid change. There has been a lot of instances where nobody knows the answers. So how do you show up? How do you act? And I think we are seeing, now that we have processed this pandemic for 2 years, companies, teams where the leaders are managing better are the ones who are communicating more effectively. And of course, there are different words for this, but I do believe emotional intelligence is playing an integral part. Now, I'm not going to give a textbook definition of emotional intelligence, but I think whenever you would read, the first step is self-awareness. And that's where it all begins. And I definitely think it builds up from there. After self-awareness, you realize maybe what your gaps are, what your style is. You learn to be vulnerable, you learn to motivate others better, so on and so forth. But it's basic bread and butter now, honestly, to show up in a way where there is high level of self-awareness in one, how they lead. So where we are right now, absolutely, this is integral part of how we operate.
Interesting. I'm glad you said, self-awareness, being vulnerable. I also feel being self-aware is perhaps the first step towards being emotionally intelligent. But, one often also feels that when someone is in a position of power or importance, being self-aware would also mean showing a vulnerable side. Do you think does that come in the way of leaders to demonstrate confidence and control, while dealing with situation of crisis, saying, I don't know, or saying, this is perhaps something beyond my knowledge, and showing your vulnerability?
Yeah, I mean, the way I kind of look at it is there is a time for everything. So, of course, we call it the leadership toolkit. You have the motivational speech, you have the go get them speech, you have the, we're down in the dumps last quarter, let's figure out a way to a miracle happen speech. There's so many versions of being a leader because there's so many instances on how you show up. So I think just keeping that in mind and putting that lens on, yes, there is a time to be vulnerable for sure. There's a time, and when I again say vulnerable, what I really mean by that is you show up saying, I don't know the answer, or I am personally affected by what's going on just the way you are. And maybe my physical and mental well-being is not what it needs to be right now. So allow me more time. I think when you think of it in that manner, I do think leaders through experience know when to pick out the right thing from their toolkit. right? So when it comes, coming back to your question, that when it's a time of crisis, of course, people look up to their leader to be the person who is leading them, who has a show of confidence. But the way we are going about things right now, and the point I raised earlier, there are times nobody knows the answers. Will we come back to office? Will we not? The perennial question that's haunting corporates for the last 2 years. And you have to sort of go with the flow. But I think the vulnerable side, and this is where the communication style is now changing, is a lot more leaders are showing up saying, I want to be transparent with you. This is what I know. This is what I don't know. If I knew something more, I would let you know. Or if I had XYZ data points, I probably would make a different decision. But I'm making this decision because this is the data that's with me. I think that's changing, because when you're not in a moment of crisis, it's sort of business as usual. The leaders are not so much more answerable also. You sort of say, hey, this is what I've decided. This is what's going to happen. Let's go with it. And a lot of people, especially in our country, as a cultural element, say, this person is in a position of power. Let's listen to them. But now everybody's questioning everything. People have to explain themselves more. So I think it is important to explain where you're coming from.
Interesting. So what I'm picking on what you said, showing up is important. Communicating is important. And in last 2 years, almost 2 years, have been tough for everyone. Nobody knew. It was completely unprecedented. And I think we sort of were pushed into remote working, and now perhaps hybrid working models. And I think they're becoming a norm today. And there is a huge focus on mental well-being. And I think it's also perhaps come at the forefront in the last 2 years. I know communicating is important, but I think it always also comes down to how you do it. And I think people are picking on that. And do you think there is a greater onus on leaders to demonstrate empathy? Is that becoming center stage?
Yeah. I think this has also been an evolution. I have Mind Your Mind here, because that's a campaign we chose to run, because we are keeping, as a company, mental well-being front and center. It is something we've heard from our employees. We are seeing burnout. We are seeing, people sort of saying we don't know where the line is. Where does work begin, stop? Where does life begin, stop otherwise? So people do need coping mechanisms, just the way they always had. It's like learning a new skill. So I think when it comes to that, say we bring our whole selves to work one way or the other, right? And now work is, one of the favorite sayings is, work is at home and home is at work. The lines are blurred. So of course, yes, leaders need to show up that there is a change in the way we are working, in the way we are showing up. So yes, there is very much a need to extend that empathetic understanding that there is a change happening. Change is not easy for most of us to process. So I would again take that lens that there is a difference in the way we operated, the way we are operating. Some people are taking it to fish to water. Hey, I always wanted to be remote, or this is more comfortable for me. Some are saying, no, I need to be in a physical place. So it does put a lot of pressure on leaders, because now you are, adjusting your way of working to a hybrid workplace for many, and still remote for many. So yeah, you need to show up in a way where you make sure, as a leader, you are letting your team know, I understand what you're going through. This is a safe place for you to show up, for you to share what's on your mind, and let's build on this together. Because I think what is likely to happen if you don't do that is there is some reservation. There is some mindset that an employee will have. And instead of trying to solve it, would say, hey, I'm not getting what I want here, so let me move on. I mean, one of the really interesting things that happened to me earlier this week is I host coffee chats with employees. And one of the employees said, I'm finding it very difficult to be productive, because in a meeting, if 10 people are there, required, 7 are at home and 3 are at office. But the decision maker, for example, is at home, and now you're really confused. Did they speak up? Did they do it or not? And I get it. This is a more junior person, less experienced, so they're still learning how to get it done. And I really wanted to extend at that point. I gave that person 10 minutes of my time to say, okay, let's walk through it. What are things you could do? How could you show up in the situation differently? I think for me to say dismiss it and say, hey, listen, we all are going through hybrid workplace, figure it out, everyone's figuring it out. That's one way of reacting, but it's not the best way of reacting. This person is choosing to be vulnerable and saying, I am struggling here. Shifta, how do I show up? What do you do which helps? And at the end of it, I said, listen, these are things that help me. I don't think there's a perfect answer. Let's crowdsource some ideas from some of your peers. And then we went around the room looking at better ideas also coming up. So I think that's sort of the way conversations are going to evolve in many topics. Of course, there are going to be times where leaders are going to have to say, hey, listen, we need to get X done. We need to get it done. Now let's come together. This needs to happen. But I still think there's a lot of positive reinforcement. The days of this is, a leader says it and it happens, those days are, I think, more or less over now.
Interesting. And I'm glad that that example was made. Do you feel, people often compartmentalize people. They put people in boxes, of images and impressions and perceptions that they have about them, perhaps in their mind. And being empathetic, being compassionate is perhaps the need of the day. But do you think sometimes when you perhaps, you go out of your way and make sure, your team is comfortable, there's enough compassion, do you think that can be mistaken for a leader's inability rather, to be assertive or take tough decisions, for what you said, sometimes things need to be done. Do you think then it's another journey to be taken?
The reason I'm smiling, Angela, is the question that you're posing is, I think, paradox that women leaders have always actually undergone.
Okay.
So now, of course, it's being extended because there's an expectation. But having said that, I've heard in so many different conversations across organizations, across level, this woman is great, but we wish she would be a little bit more cheerful, a little bit more empathic. And then I understand that's where a person is coming from. For them, that's how a leader, especially a woman leader, shows up, right? So you're absolutely right. There are preconceived notions of a leader. And then I think there is a bit of a gender angle to that also. And so the reverse of it is, if a male leader chooses to, share a story which is maybe very personal to them, and it maybe comes out of nowhere, you're sort of taken aback to say, hey, listen, what happened? Is everything all right? This is not expected. So I think, yes, I'll be very honest. I do think it's evolving. I don't think this is business as usual. Like, this is the way we expect people to show up right now. But I do think that there is greater acceptance, and in companies where the culture is that of transparency, of very open channels of communication with senior leadership, I think there's much more wider acceptance for it. Definitely in the company I work in, Adidas right now, for sure, I think it is across genders, it's across levels, that empathy matters, care matters, and then we'll talk about other things.
Interesting. And there's often this debate of saying what is more important. Is it IQ or EQ? And like you said, we're perhaps evolving. And I feel, while IQ is undoubtedly vital, but I also feel, if you've reached a certain position, it's a given. I always say, there could be many people who can do that job for you. But do you think EQ becomes more important or relevant to differentiate between effective and maybe less effective leaders? Do you think in today's day and age that's coming up?
So I think when you talk about today's day and age, change is so rapid. It's all around us that it is definitely the whole IQ, EQ quotient, everything coming together. I, in fact, heard something around spirituality being another dimension of leadership now, and that's gaining ground, which I think is fantastic. Even happiness quotient is something that people are now, bringing forth to me to say that this is another dimension we should talk about. So yes, there is a whole sum game here. I don't think it's individual, but let's talk about what creates differentiation. I think when we talk about change and we talk about resilience and we talk about just the fact that again, it's top of mind for us, what's happening for the last 2 years. I do think leaders which have chosen to be very aware of what kind of leadership style they have, what are people wanting from them, and show up in that way and show up to share that, have gained a level of loyalty which is different from someone saying XYZ leader is so intelligent, has the best answers, and that's great. There is admiration for that for sure. And of course, the rare leader which marries both is, that's what we all are chasing, I think, at some level. I think they get that highest level of admiration. So I do think EQ is very important, my very personal view of it. I think how we gauge that, how do we now I'm putting my HR hat on, how do we gauge that and reward that in leaders is what I think companies are now going to probably start having a discussion on, because you can call that out as a key leadership quality.
Correct.
But then again, you got to recognize it. You got to reward it. You got to, figure out what are the behaviors exactly behind it and share that with people so that more people understand, or if I exhibit behavior X, I will be called a courageous leader or an empathetic leader, and so on and so forth. So I don't think the literature is very much ready behind it.
No. Do you think is that formalizing a little bit? And then perhaps my next question is this has always been on the evolve side of how do things in people, organization perhaps follow you in terms of policies, culture, etc. And amongst everyone else, do you feel our organization now formalizing, increasing, prioritizing EQ over the IQ, while hiring a person, while promoting a person, or while looking at succession plans? Do you think is everyone thinking like you, or is it, or is it still not? We're still not there.
I think a little difficult to be the spokesperson for everybody. But in my conversations and a little bit that I am reading up, see, the awareness level is very high. For sure. I think when people are going about and saying what sort of leaders do we want, and I'm sure you're getting that in your ask also as a, as an executive search firm, what sort of C-level leaders need to show up. I don't know how many earlier would have said things like, should be, of course, things like agile and, that comes up, but also how have they demonstrated empathy towards others. So I think there is a greater awareness of it. I do think there's a greater acceptance of it, but are we at a stage where it's business as usual? Probably not across industries. We're getting there, but I think it should be just a matter of a few years where it is very much front and center. One of the things that you would read about is even in the future of HR roles, that there are things like a happiness coach. We already have well-being roles, right, coming up, but just more focus on mental well-being and these things showing up. And so if that happens, corresponding to it, I do think we'll see that in leadership coaching. We'll see that as a leadership quality show up more formally in job descriptions and, as you said, in hiring criteria.
Hopefully, fingers crossed. Now, but one last thing, you've had such a diverse experience, worked across different industries. Maybe reflecting on your career, can you think of instances, and I'm sure that there will be many, or examples which reaffirmed importance of emotional intelligence and, perhaps helped you evolve better as a leader.
Yeah, no, thank you, Angela. I think, in my role as an HR leader, the principles I do apply are consistency, fairness, and then definitely extending, special circumstances into consideration when it comes to devising employee policies and so on and so forth. Because you do want to ensure you're not, you're playing by the rules and you're being fair. But there are times when an extraordinary situation will show up. I'll start with probably a small example. Last year, there was an employee relocating, and they reached out to me. Hey, listen, your relocation policy says an employee's spouse and children are covered. I don't have a spouse, but my mother is very near and dear to me. Can I relocate with her? And there's a time where you look at policy and no, this is what the policy says. But I kind of said, yeah, that makes sense. We are trying to cover for a dependent. And this person is, very clearly said that the mother is dependent on them. And it's something that they like to do with a parent versus a spouse. So you kind of move away from what's written on pen and paper and, move it along like that. I think that, as I said, was a pure black and white example. I think the other examples where it showed up is when we mentor people. When I personally have mentored folks, I think when they're talking about career decisions, and again, a lot of our career decisions, especially again, I'll say with women, is driven by our family decisions, right? And there's so much of an expectation to say, hey, listen, just go get it. We'll figure it out later. But it's not so easy to just go and figure it out, move across half the world. And you'll always hear of these examples where the men kind of say, okay, maybe I'll figure it out. And the women say, let me go, speak to my spouse and then figure it out. So I think not being biased when we get different reactions, I think that's also a way of kind of showing our emotional intelligence. That people react differently, that people have different circumstances that they have to deal with, even though I may think there's a fantastic opportunity I'm offering them. And I think that's the other lens when we talk about emotional intelligence. We're trying, the other way of looking at it is inclusion. More leaders are figuring out that inclusion shows up in very different ways. It's not about gender diversity, it's about diversity of thought. It's now this generational thing that's coming up. It's how we choose to work. And I think being more accepting of that throughout my career, I have found leads to kind of having a more balanced approach.
Wow. Very, very nice, Chef. More power to you. Thank you so much for the wonderful conversation. I'm so glad I could spend this time with you. I appreciate your time. I'm glad that I could get a peek into you as a leader, as a person. And I'm sure, many would find your story and experiences very, very inspiring. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for this opportunity, Angela. I really appreciate it.